we're going to dive right into what happened with Damar Hamlin. So on Monday Night Football, the Bills were playing against the Bengals, a legitimate, very big game for the political implications, or sorry, the postseason implications. I'm used to saying political. The postseason implications for the NFL season leading into week 18, I believe, which is the final week of games of the regular season. Now, what happened was on a pretty ordinary play, Damar Hamlin, number 3 for the Bills, a special teams player, got into a collision. He's a cornerback as well, defensive player. He was the defender, not the guy running the ball. Hit the Bengals, receiver, and proceeded to get up, and then collapsed on the field. Hamlin was unconscious and had to be resuscitated twice, allegedly on the field. He was administered CPR for 9 minutes on the field. There's nothing more to that other than just saying the tragedy that it is. As a former football player, as a contact sports athlete, things like this are extremely rare, but they do happen. When I was in high school, we had someone that was almost paralyzed. I've had scares with being with my neck and my spine, but nothing to this extent. Although to be fair, when we were in high school at the time, kids in high school died from dehydration during training camps. So these things are absolutely tragic, and they happen. And the reason why we're talking about it today is twofold. First, and I couldn't find the TikTok video of it, but I will because I TikTok doesn't have the ability to go back in your history and find it. But I saw a video of, I think it was just another sports analyst on a podcast from yesterday discussing this and talking about the players' rights and the players' union. And I think it's important to note on a progressive show like this, talking about unionization, talking about workers' rights, that NFL players, despite making, what might seem like insane amounts of money, Hamlin made less than $1 million a year, which, okay, yeah, to the average person, that sounds like an insane amount of money regardless, but he makes about $865,000 a year. But this is the type of thing that these folks put on the line. The risk to their body, to their health, to their necks, to their brains is insane. And it is such a high level of contact sport, and the trauma caused, we've learned about CTE, and this is something that the guy in the video put very concisely, but we've learned about CTE, and you can only find out that someone has CTE post-mortem. So after someone dies, you can look at their brain to see CTE, and that's just a traumatic brain injury that leads to dysfunction in the brain. Now, what happened with Hamlin is that he had a cardiac event. So they didn't say it specifically, but the equivalent functionally of a heart attack. Which, again, is rare. It's extremely rare, but does happen in sports. It does happen in contact sports. It happens in baseball. It happens in hockey when people get hit in the chest or they get hit in the neck or in the head. This analyst really put it succinctly in saying the NFL really needs to step up. And he didn't fully go and say that the players' union needs to demand X, Y, and Z, but the players' union in their most recent bargaining agreements took cuts to pensions, took cuts to longer-term healthcare plans and the pensions for players. And the thing is that a lot of players, not all of them, not even the majority of them, but a good chunk will be unable to do any sort of physical job after they're done playing in the NFL. there is a good chunk that will be unable to do most any other job because of the traumatic brain injuries that they receive. That is not the majority, but there are people like that. So ensuring that there is a longevity to protecting players, the same way that the UFC should, by the way, which is another whole issue. The only reason we're talking about this is because, politically speaking, workers' rights are at risk here. And they have been consistently. You can look at the MLB, you can look at the NFL, you can look at the NHL, NBA, all of these different organizations. What is the common thread? Their owners are all billionaires. Billionaires that own the companies, that get billions of dollars from taxpayer money to pay for the stadiums that they reap the benefits from, and then they socialize the costs for. They refuse to pay for the healthcare, the proper long-term healthcare that the players need. That is an injustice to every single player that ends up needing that help. It's an injustice to people that may end up, the families that may end up needing the help. We look at something that happened here, and a guy that is younger than me. I am 26 years old. Damar Hamlin is 24 years old. And he may need, hopefully he doesn't, we don't know what he may need. We don't know what condition really he's in at this point. He may need millions of dollars in help. And the NFL says they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. But the NFL is a corporation driven by profits and profits alone. The NFL is a corporation driven by profits that is impacted and influenced by billionaires that own teams that only care about profits and profits alone. Their greed puts players at risk, that players, of course, are accepting some level of risk by doing the job, by playing the game. But if we are to expect that players continue to and families support kids playing these types of sports, and we're not going to just sit back and let everyone get these traumatic brain injuries and risk dying, and these traumatic blowing up your legs basically with ACL tears, Achilles ruptures, your shoulders, your necks, spines. I mean, this is not the first time that a serious injury has happened and has left somebody close to death. And we don't know that Hamlin's going to be okay. So that's the first part of this. And that's why we're talking about it on a political show. The second part is the extrapolation of the far right, and I'm going to look at two examples with you, of claiming immediately. This is a tweet. I'm going to show you the first tweet. This is a tweet, January 2nd. That's Monday. The game is at functionally, 8:30 or whatever. At 9:52 p.m., Charlie Kirk tweets out, This is a tragic, which I think he means a tragedy, an all too familiar sight right now. Athletes dropping suddenly. So what everyone starts to realize is that he's talking about the COVID-19 vaccine. He is claiming, Charlie Kirk is claiming, without any evidence, that this was impacted because, first of all, Charlie Kirk has no idea if Damar Hamlin is vaccinated. He has no knowledge if he had COVID before. He has no impact. He has no knowledge of any sort of medical background for this player. He has no chart that says that he has a predisposition to X, Y, or Z. He has nothing that says that anything is linked to COVID-19. But this first thing, within an hour of this guy getting hurt, and people don't even know that he's alive at this point, because remember, he had to be resuscitated, which means he was practically dead on the football field twice. This guy wants to claim, without any shred of evidence right off the bat that because he collapsed after getting hit in the chest, that the COVID-19 vaccine is the case. He's not explicitly saying, but he doubles down and he claims that this is exactly that. Now, let's take a look at jackass number 2, Tucker Carlson.
What don't we know? Well, what we don't know could fill volumes, starting with why Damar Hamlin had a heart attack on a football field. We do not know the answer, and there is no way to know the answer. We're not going to lie to you and pretend we do know the answer.
Right. Until you posit the COVID-19 vaccine, because that's exactly what he's about to do.
But that has not stopped many others from lying to you. Hamlin was still lying on the field receiving CPR when self-described medical experts in the media, people with no demonstrated medical ethics at all, effectively witch doctors, decided to use his
no medical ethics, he said, let alone what these guys are doing with no medical expertise. So he's calling people that are talking about this at the time, stating that there's no evidence that a COVID-19 vaccine would cause this, saying that they don't have ethics, versus people like him with no expertise in any sort of matter, which I don't have either, but I'm not claiming one way or the other. You can't just come out and start saying, oh, COVID-19 vaccine caused this. You know what's more likely to cause some traumatic issue? Getting jammed in the chest with somebody's helmet running full speed at you. You know what also is more likely to cause issues, which these freaking bozos don't ever say, was actually having COVID-19. But they can't help themselves. They're salivating. I would never be talking about this on this show if these jackasses wouldn't be salivating and biting, chomping at the bit to just pinpoint and say, yeah, well, look, we're not saying that it's the COVID-19 vaccine, but it could be, without any evidence.
Tragic, life-threatening injuries, an opportunity to spread still more propaganda about the COVID shots. It could not have been.
He's saying propaganda as in saying that it doesn't cause heart attacks. Not what he's doing, which is actually spreading propaganda about the COVID-19 vaccines.
The shot, they told you. Shut up. But they're lying. They don't know that. They don't know anything more than we know, which is effectively nothing. We can't say it was the shot. We can't say it wasn't the shot. We don't know whether he got the shot. We don't know, and neither do they.
At least he's admitting that part of it. But that's the thing, though. He's not really admitting much because in reality, he is just postulating this question. He is just, throwing it out there. What's the harm in asking the question, right? If it's just a question, it can't be harmful. And yet, again, it just always continues to boil down to this. It is ludicrous. It is disrespectful. It is something that I still can't understand. And I was, I'm editing a big project that I've been working on, and I read a part about it that I wrote a long time ago, actually, about a year ago, and talking about Tucker Carlson and talking about this guy that is a blatant liar. And he consistently he's been given a mainstream platform that, again, talk about greed. He's a millionaire getting paid by billionaires to spread propaganda that you hate and fear your neighbors. You hate and fear medicine or experts or any of this stuff, but you would listen to this guy that used to wear a bow tie until he got made fun of by Jon Stewart.